Anfernee Simons looks like he's sticking around for a little while. So what does that mean? Should he start? Should he come off the bench? We'll talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Beantown, be ever ready. It's the C's. Who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT. Karalis, recap the madness every game, every practice. Prime time, Depp and D White on the sideline. Rain and Jace, how it started, raising business, how we finished. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Your team is the Boston Celtics, and I cover them Monday through Friday on this podcast. I'm John Karalis, beat writer covering it for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a couple books on this team. I've been doing this job for like about 20 years. So hope you enjoy it. It's Monday through Friday. It's free. It's available everywhere. It's on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Share your thoughts there. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers, you bet $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So Anfernee Simons, we've kind of been like avoiding him because I didn't think he was going to be available on or be a Celtic on opening night, but actually we're at a point here where he might be. It's looking like he's going to be a member of the Boston Celtics. And so why not talk about him as if he's a member of the Boston Celtics? So we're going to do it with noted Anfernee Simons aficionado, Tom Westerholm. What's going on, Tom?
I can't stop winning.
Win?
I won one, but this is a nice, I won one here.
Tom, I've heard that you win no matter what.
Yeah, that's just objectively not true. I can't even play along. However, I am glad that Anfernee Simons is going to be on the roster. I think it's good, actually.
So we'll make the argument for starting and for coming off the bench because we don't know what he's going to do at this point. So second segment will be the argument for starting, the third off the bench. But let's just begin this podcast with this awkward situation that Simons is in. They didn't do an introductory press conference. They waited because no one knew if he was going to be a part of this team. He didn't know if he was going to be a part of this team. And now media day is going to come in 2 weeks. And the questions he's going to start getting is, hey, wow, no one thought you were going to be here. And yet here you are. How funny is that? And so it's going to be interesting to see, first of all, Tom, how he just kind of like rolls with those punches and how he kind of like just because he knows what's happening. He understands that the team didn't get him to keep him. So right away it's awkward.
Yeah, it is for sure. I think it's funny, right? Because I think that with Simons there's this opportunity here to really open some eyes, to really do something on this Celtics team. I mean, he really has, for a guy who is on a team that he wasn't sure if he was going to be on when he was traded, he really is in kind of an enviable situation. I mean, he's going to have a lot of opportunities. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to prove himself, plenty of chance. I think you and I both probably think he's going to be playing not for a great team, but like a low-level playoff team, right? Like, that's assuming that obviously that he sticks around all year, but he could be a winning, contributing to winning kind of player with the right performance this year. That's not a bad situation to be in. When you get traded during the offseason, you could be traded to much, much worse situations than that. And yet there is still, you're 100% right. I mean, there's going to be, the introductory press conference thing, I think really stands out. Like, it's like, that's, that really says a lot about how tenuous his connection to this franchise was. And, it'll be interesting to see how tenuous he still feels it to be. Cause again, it's an opportunity, but it's not a team that was exactly clamoring for you.
That's right. And I think Brad will come out and say, look, we got him. We're doing our due diligence and we're trying to accomplish certain things, but you don't trade for a player that you wouldn't want on your team. I feel like that would be a line that comes out of Brad Stevens' mouth. You never trade for a player that you wouldn't want on your team. And I think that's going to be where they roll with Simons, at least to start. There's a little bit of damage control that's going to be going on here. They're going to need to make him feel wanted. They're going to need to make him feel like he's part of this plan moving forward. And who knows? You just never know, right? We can come in and say, this was the plan. And it very obviously was the plan to continue exploring trades. But maybe they hit on something. It's not out of the question to say,
no, it's not.
They hit on something with trading for Anfernee Simons. He's an unrestricted free agent after the season. So that does kind of like make things a little weird with, what are they going to want to pay him? But we'll have that discussion another time. Right now, they have a player that is a really good offensive player, and it's awkward, but if you can get past that, you have yourself a really good player. Tom, Anfernee Simons is, if you think about it, of all the players on this roster, he's the only one that's been at the top of the opposing team's scout for an entire season, right? Because Jaylen has had Jayson ahead of him. Guys have had everybody's had players ahead of them on the opposing team's defensive scout, except for Anfernee Simons. He has been the focal point of every team's defense. When you play the Blazers, it's like, all right, shut down Simons and you get yourself a chance to win. So you're getting a guy that's used to having a lot of defensive attention. And I think the first thing that he's going to appreciate when he comes to Boston is I don't have that same defensive attention on me. No matter what lineup, start or come off the bench, he's going to have I think a little bit more space to work with, which I think can help him get past the awkwardness pretty quickly. Tom, I guess this is the question here. Okay, with all of that said, knowing that the Celtics didn't trade him for the sake of hey, we wanted you, is he going to go on his own? Look, I'm just going to do my thing. When the tiebreaker needs to be broken, I'm shooting rather than passing. Is that going to be something that we're going to face with him this year?
I mean, one way or the other, if the tiebreaker is that, okay, he's an awesome shooter. He's an awesome offensive player. He's a 3-level scorer. He's everything that you could want in an offensive player. I mean, I think if Anfernee Simons is default is all right, hang on, I'm just going to go get a bucket here. That's not a bad thing. That's as good an option as you've got. It's one of the best options you've got on this team. I don't know that I don't know that I see the downside there. I think
which is a fair point.
I mean, I think that there's been a lot of tempering of expectations with Simons because everybody thought that he was gone, right? Everybody thought that he was going to get traded. Everybody thought that he was, kind of a dead man walking on this roster. But listen, I mean, your point, if Brad literally said word for word what you just said, right, where you don't trade for somebody that you don't want on your roster, that would be valid. Anfernee Simons is good. And I don't know. I mean, I do think that he is, I mean, he's enough of he's been in the league for a little while now. I think that he will probably be enough of a professional to understand how important this year is for him. Right. So I think that's one thing. I think if he can show people, hey, I can produce numbers on a winning team and contribute to winning, that money is a heck of a lot different than I'm a volume microwave scorer, right? Volume microwave scorer gets you money, gets you a job. Yeah. But I'm a big time volume, efficient scorer who also helps teams win. Those guys get money. And yeah, I mean, if I'm him, that's worth swallowing my pride a little bit and playing for a team that was hey, we might want to trade you. It's not like the Celtics did anything egregious. The Celtics brought Anfernee Simons in and said, listen, we're not a contending team this year, so we don't know if we're going to keep you. You're a good player. I mean, there's such an easy spin, right? It's just we think you're a really good player. We just aren't really, we weren't sure if we were going to be trying to win this year. We weren't sure what was going on. You just tell Simons that, and it's I don't know. That to me, that seems reasonable. And again, and then I think you're just comes down to the fact that you've got a good player on your roster, and you get to try to see how that works.
However this goes, the Celtics will have a really good offensive player on their roster.
Yeah.
Now, I say offensive player. Is his defense going to get where it needs to be for him to be all of those things, to get that money that you said? Which would, I think, play into whether he is a starter, whether he comes off the bench, or whether he's a finisher. You could be one or the other and not a finisher. So let's explore all of that. We'll make the argument for starting when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot, just 2 ounces, packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee. Plus, you get things that you don't get in the coffee, like B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. I like these 5 Hour Energy shots because, like I've said before, as a person who travels and who often travels on little sleep, I'm going to need these little boosts to get me, off a plane, off to some place where I'm working, talking to somebody and being coherent. So these little shots are great. It gives me that energy that I need. And without the crash, it's very huge. So I can try to get some sleep when I'm done. So forget the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5, hourenergy.com, or on Amazon today. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA, Locked On NBA Game Night, 2 shows on the same feed. You just got to subscribe to one. You get me and Jake Madison on Fridays right now talking about the biggest stories in the NBA on both shows. But when the season starts, Game Night is going to live up to its name, and we're going to cover every game that night in the association. So subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's get back to the Anfernee Simons discussion. Let's make the argument for him as a starter. And look, I don't know. I have my feelings on who should start. Who knows how it's going to go? Who knows if it's going to last all season? Who knows if it's going to be consistent or inconsistent or based on matchups? I don't know that the Celtics know. But you can make a strong argument for Anfernee Simons as a starter. I think I'm not going to rehash my argument for having the point guard of either Derrick White or Payton Pritchard on the floor at all times. I think those are your 2 best point guards, and that helps you stagger Jaylen and Derrick. I think having Simons on the floor, obviously, having more guys on the floor right away that can get buckets can help you get off to better starts. I like that it takes pressure off of Jaylen Brown. And if you're going to throw double teams at Jaylen Brown, how awesome would it be to play 4-on-3 and Anfernee Simons is one of those options? So I think Simons as a starter makes a whole lot of sense.
I mean, I know you brought me on to be the resident, Anfernee Simons guy. So, I mean, I kind of have to think that he should be a starter. And
no, you don't have to. You don't have to. Whatever's best. Tom, you're a free thinker, man.
And I do. So it's it works out great for everybody involved. I think that Celtics fans might be underrating Simons a little bit. I think a little bit on both ends. Maybe I think that we've kind of forgotten maybe what he's really good. Like, he's good in the pick and roll. He's good. He's a really good 3-point shooter, like off the bounce. that really matters. Like, there's you can see very much that he was following in the footsteps of Dame. And I'm not saying that he is Damian Lillard, but he built his game in really similar ways. He's I think he's a kind of an underrated passer out of the pick and roll. He gets to the rim. He's got these kind of, he's got a couple of kind of crafty finishes that he can pull off. I think he's just a really good player offensively. And then, defensively, there's going to be issues. I think that's not, but I also, to some extent, I'm curious if they're going to be, if they've been a little bit overstated. We'll see.
Okay.
I mean, but he's got good size. I don't, when I watched the Blazers, which admittedly were not my number one league pass team by any stretch of the imagination. But like, it's not like, it's not just pure awful, right? It's a guy who he's not sitting there doing nothing. He's not just only trying on one end. And I think like, you surround him with the right pieces. I think defensively, like you've got a guy with plenty of size for his position. I don't think that there's a huge issue there. So I don't know. I do think that the defense is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but the defense is going to be, what it is on this Celtics team either way. They're going to have to outscore a lot of teams, and Anfernee Simons will really help you outscore teams. So I'm with you on like taking pressure off Jaylen. I think that's really good. I like the idea of having Derrick White, Jaylen Brown, Anfernee Simons on the floor together. I mean, offensively, I just think there's so much good stuff going on there. We talked about, earlier in the summer about how like, if teams take away Jaylen, then what? And it's like, well, you know what? If the answer is okay, then Anfernee Simons and Derrick White.
Yeah, no, that's
good enough.
That will score you points. That will score you plenty of points. The defense is interesting, right? So you have on the one hand a track record of 7 years in the NBA of not being a good defender. It's a long time, and it's a long time. Yeah. Even if he can sit there, if he were on the podcast, he'd be like, yeah, but I can be better.
Yeah.
7 years is a long time to build up those bad habits.
No question.
You know what I mean? So all of those times where you kind of quit and you kind of die on a screen, or you just are not paying attention and you get back cut, all of those things. Okay, fine. Early on, I can buy it. But after a while, that becomes your default setting. And I'm not saying that he can't get away from that, but I do need to see it before I kind of take his word for it. You can give him all the benefit of the doubt in the world, right? His first exposure to the NBA, he's playing with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. He's not exactly playing with the defensive stalwarts out there, so he's not getting that message. And then the Blazers kind of suck, and there's not a lot of motivation out there. And so, okay, the kid's 25, 26. How old is he? 26?
I believe he's 26. Yep.
Yeah. So he just turned 26 in June. So he's still young. He's just entering his prime. You can certainly give him plenty benefit of the doubt, but he definitely needs to show it quickly. He needs to prove us wrong quickly, or else that default setting is going to be kind of where he's constantly fighting from. And that's just, look, that's the reality. And Joe Mazzulla knows defense, even though he's got the 3-point reputation. He knows defense. He handled the defense under Ime Udoka. You've got Jaylen Brown, you get Derrick White, you've got all defense level guys. You've got guys that know. You got guys like Payton Pritchard who overcome a lot of that stuff with effort. So you could make the argument that you put Simons in that situation and he's like, oh, damn, I got to keep up. I got to keep up with Pritchard. I got to keep up with these guys. And if they harp on him, then great. So show me. Just show me. But starting him, putting him out there and taking some of the shackles off because he's not the primary, scout anymore. You have to worry about Jaylen. You have to worry about Derrick. Like, to have Simons as a second or third option, that is incredible. There's no doubt about it. That's incredible. And if his defense can match or improve some level of, double-digit percentage, then you have yourself a hell of a player. And you more likely than not would want to put him in a familiar situation, put Payton Pritchard in a familiar situation, and let everybody cook the way they know how to cook.
Do you who does he need to be better than defensively for you to be like, that guy should be a starter? Like, if he's better than like Darius Garland is like the floor, right? That's like the worst defender. Sure. Like,
okay, yeah. I mean, look,
if he's better defensively than Darius Garland, do you think he's a starter?
Well, yeah. Okay, sure. Like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. If you want to look at it that way.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, we can make the argument that he should be a starter without being better than Darius Garland.
Sure.
We can make the argument that he's a starter as is right now with no defensive improvement.
Sure.
I'm just saying that it would be great to see, because if we see that, then to me, there's no doubt.
There's no doubt. Right.
To me, there's no doubt that you start him if that's the case. And at that point, you have to talk about, like, do you extend him? Do you like sign him? Does he stick around? How do you reshape your roster with him in the mix? So if he can be any good defensively, then that whether he should start becomes one of many questions that come up with him.
For sure.
There is an argument for him coming off the bench.
I don't want to hear it.
I think you do.
I think
you do.
Yeah.
You're going to have to participate, or you can just leave. You can just leave and be like, "Hey, see ya. Appreciate you. Bye." You did what you had to do.
I came on to advocate for the man. I'm ready.
All right. Should Anfernee Simons? What's the argument for him coming off the bench? And will Tom Westerholm return to the podcast? Ooh, find out after this. Big mystery. I'm going to bet. I'm going to open up my FanDuel app and see if there's line and odds on Tom Westerholm coming back. Obviously, the NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Just bet $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. No one cares what the bet is. You're just going to bet $5 on something and win. So make it the easiest bet in the world. Win your $5, win your $5 bet, and get your $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And then when Sunday rolls around, you want to bet on player props, you want to build the same game parlay, you have a little extra bonus bet money lying around there. So it's super easy. The app is quick, easy to use. You get paid out real quick. So you can have a little extra fun on Sundays. When you sign up, this is an offer for new customers. When you sign up, there will be a screen that asks you to set your limit, set your budget. Please do so. Gamble responsibly. Only bet what you're able to lose, what you can afford to lose. Once that's gone, you just come back when you get paid again if you want, and then join back in the fun. It's called gambling responsibly. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. We got podcasts for every sport out there. Well, not every sport out there. I don't know if we got Locked On Cricket, but hey, baseball, football, hockey, college, whatever your favorite other team is in another sport, check it out. Locked On has you covered. Tom Westerholm. Oh, is he not here? Psych! Psych!
It's a bad beat for any of you who bet against me.
All right. The argument for Anfernee Simons coming off the bench. I think it's simple. Well, okay, twofold. I think you would have to believe that Payton Pritchard, having been here, has earned it. And you just have to be like, look, man, we're going with him, and that's it. And so Pritchard, Derrick
rings, as the internet would say.
What was that?
Count the rings, as the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. So Pritchard and Derrick White. So Derrick White would move off the ball. Jaylen Brown and your center, I'm going to just assume it's Neemias Queta at this point. And then your power forward. You go Chris Boucher, you go Sam Hauser. However they decide to do it, they do it. And you can just believe in that and say, the guys who have been here have earned it. And so we're going with that. And then that brings Simons off the bench, and he just gets to cook as the primary guy. And I think that's one of the best argument that you can have is he's the guy that, because he's used to playing on a team that's kind of like, and being the focal point and handling everything, right? He's been double teamed. He's been like everything against a bad Blazers team. And he's still put up these incredible offensive numbers. Well, the Celtics in the lineups, if he's coming off the bench with him as the primary guy, will be kind of Portland-ish. And so he's used to it. He knows it. He gets it. And he's cooked. He's cooked very well in those lineups. There is, I think, a strong argument to be like, hey, if anybody can handle that situation, let's give it to the guy who's handled that situation already.
So I think that's honestly, I think that's a strong argument. I hear you. I think that like my only counter to it is just it's really simple. I just think he's a little too good. Like I think he's just a little too good to. And I know we're making the argument for coming off the bench now. But I guess my response to that is like, yeah, fair enough. Like all of that makes sense. I think that like, and I also think there's a lot to be said for, starting the game strong and then still having like being able to bring something in. I mean, it like Payton Pritchard is a good player, but you don't bring him in as like off the bench to be like an ISO scoring kind of guy. If you're staggering your go-to scorers a little bit, that's not a bad way of doing it, right? Start one of them, have the other one come off the bench. Sometimes they play together and they play off each other. Maybe they finish together, like you were saying at the start. I mean, I think all of that is definitely valid. I think for me, it just literally comes down to like, I think Simons is pretty good. Like, I think he's just a little too good to come off the bench. And if it were me, I'd rather kind of stagger things down the line, like, okay, maybe Simons comes off at the 8-minute mark and then, Jaylen comes off at the, 2-minute, whatever it is, however that you do it. I personally would go that direction, just even on the off chance, right, that Simons does perform so much this year that you want to keep him happy. And you want to make him feel like he's part of a Boston team going forward. I mean, like that possibility exists too. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
No, so I agree with you. And okay, what would make him happy? I guess this is another part of the argument of starting or sitting or coming off the bench. What would make him happy? What gets him more touches and more shots?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what would make him more happy because he's never been introduced to the media. So who knows?
Fair enough. Yeah. But what gets him more shots? Like he's going to get what has he averaged? I have his stats up here. He has averaged 12. Okay. Well, last season, 16 shots. Before that, 18. Before that, 17. So let's just say 17-ish shots per game that he's averaged, which is okay, fair. I think that's, maybe he's not going to get 20. Maybe he shouldn't expect 20. Last season, Jaylen got 17, so almost 18. Jayson got 20. So, that's being in that Jayson or Jaylen range. Like, okay, so Jaylen will pump up to 20.
Yeah.
What gets Anfernee Simons 17 shots? Is it going to be playing next to Derrick White? Do you want Derrick White to be taking more shots? I do. So isn't it possible that him coming off the bench is the best way for him to get the shots that he wants, to get a 5-minute stretch where, like I said at the top of the show, the tiebreaker between pass and shoot, he's going to be like, nah, man, I'm shooting. Well, if you're on the floor with, I mean, Luka Garza is a decent offensive player, but like if you're on the floor with some of the scraps of the Celtics have put together, no disrespect intended,
but plenty came across, but none was intended.
But like, would that be the way to be like, hey, this is how you get to 17, 18 shots by middle of the second quarter, middle of the, beginning of the fourth quarter, whatever, you get to just go out there and do your thing.
Yeah. I mean I think there's a lot of validity to that. I also think, again, I think you could still accomplish very much the same thing, like by staggering him out of the starting lineup, by having him in the starting lineup, stagger him shortly, have him be the first sub out so that he can come in, Mm-hmm. I mean, at some point we're really kind of, I think that we're kind of falling into the thing, Joe Mazzulla would probably yell at us for focusing so much on starting versus coming off the bench, right? Because like what it really comes down to is just the respect of starting kind of thing. Because you're right.
My counterpoint to that is, okay, I get it. There's validity to it, but my counterpoint is this is also how you set your rotations. Yeah. So him coming off the bench and him starting changes who's on the floor with whom at what time. And so there is some validity to just figuring out, who starts and who comes off the bench. And it's not even just who has earned it and who has the like that existential stuff. It's more like, how do you want to play the beginning of the second quarter? Do you want Jaylen Brown to start the second quarter? Do you want Anfernee Simons to start the second quarter? Do you want what pairings do you want? Do you want Simons and Derrick White? Do you want Jaylen Brown and Derrick White? How those things are the important part of figuring out like how you want to play certain situations. And so how you start and having guys available, and it may be as simple like you just mentioned, starting Simons, maybe he's the first sub out. Mm-hmm. And you bring in and you stagger, and then he subs in for Jaylen, and now you have honestly your two best, like most dynamic scorers, right? Because as much as I love Derrick White and think he's a great basketball player, Anfernee Simons is just a pure scorer at heart, and so him and Jaylen are your two best scorers. So subbing them in for one another, there's sense to that somehow. So however they do it, start them, bring them off the bench. I can see them saying, this is how we want to run our rotations.
I think it'll be kind of interesting to see, like, okay, could the Celtics, last season, the way that they subbed Jaylen and Jayson, right? Having, a lot of times having, Tatum play like, a huge chunk of the first quarter, whatever it might be. It would be interesting to see if they kind of like move Jaylen up to Jayson's role, and have Simons kind of play some, like you were saying, right? Some of those, like, play against some of those second units, or if that's something that Jaylen kind of likes to do. Because like Jaylen, did really well against second units a lot of the time last year. It'd be interesting to see it'll be interesting to see how they shuffle those guys up. But
I think there's a strong argument to be made for either side.
Yeah.
Start him, bring him off the bench. I think either way, you can make a strong argument, and I think there's validity to both. It'll work to some degree. So I don't know. So we'll see. People, share your thoughts in the comment section and let us know. Tom, thank you for
appreciate you, man,
hopping on. I do appreciate you as always, and I do appreciate you listening, watching, however you're listening, being an everydayer, joining me every Monday through Friday. Camp is opening up very soon. So we are now moving away from our off-season type of content, and we're starting to get into the deeper looks at this team. What can we expect? What should we expect? Who are these guys? And there will be a lot more Anfernee Simons talk, because we didn't talk about him all summer because we didn't think he was going to be here. And the Celtics were a little complicit in that because they didn't introduce him. They didn't do any of that stuff. They made it seem like he wasn't going to be here either. And okay, so he's here. What does that all mean? This show is one of, I'm sure, many that we will do all preseason. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. We're going to be breaking everything down. Watch the show on YouTube. Like I said, get into the comment section. Share your thoughts on whether Simon should start or come off the bench for however long he's here. Is it this year? Is it half a year? Is it multiple years? Who knows? What should he do? What should the Celtics do? And then once you do that, I would love it if you shared the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.